Welcome back to Contemporary Crusader. Today we're going to be talking about the MCX. Silent but deadly. All right, so Sig Sauer, kind of a divisive character in the gun industry. It seems like there's really no in between. It's a binary, you either hate them or love them. But that being said, I feel like I am kind of in that in between, leaning more towards the love them. The main complaint that it seems that they have, or people have for them, is that they rush products to market, and we end up as a consumer being the test dummies for one of their products. Then they identify issues, and then they do recalls, they fix it in the next generation, and you know, it's just kind of a cycle like that. Some people, you know, there's the controversy with the 320. I have two 320s. I haven't had the issue of it going off in my holster, or, you know, I've never tested it with dropping, but so I don't know. It could be an issue. I don't carry that as a primary firearm or EDC or anything like that. So I can't confirm or deny whether the 320 has an issue. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the MCX and specifically the Virtus. This is set up like the LVAW, more or less, which is the low visibility assault weapon, which was they were made in response to a contract by the US government for special operations. And this isn't exactly like the one, or at least the one that there's photos of. Maybe this is what they're using now. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody with firsthand knowledge using it in the military. But so what is the MCX? It's effectively, it's kind of their modernized AR-15. Most people, if you're watching this video, I don't know if you have any experience with it, if you're watching it to learn about it, but effectively it's Sig's take on a more modern piston-driven AR-15. The operating system is not completely different, but it is. The gas system's different. The bolt carrier group's different. The controls are pretty much identical. The way, you know, the manual of arms is pretty much identical to an AR-15, but it's more akin to an AR, like an AR-180 as far as the internals, the piston system. So I think there were some contracts with the military that sparked this design. I don't know exactly which one. I don't know if it was the LVAW or whatever, but effectively it's just a cool gun. You know, it's not necessarily revolutionary. I'd say it's more evolutionary in terms of firearms, but I think it's and this is going to be a hot take, but I think it's the best non-AR on the market that I've ever seen. So it's the best design outside of that direct impingement AR-15 that I've dealt with. I have a decent amount of experience with it. I've had this one for 5+ years, and probably not a crazy amount, but between 556 and 300 blackout, I maybe have 2,000 to 3,000 rounds on this one with no issues. But I also worked for a police agency and I was on the SWAT team, and this was the MCX. Basically, this exact setup was the issued rifle, issued service rifle for that team. So I had a lot to do with the T&E process to go to that gun from another platform that we were using, and so I kind of have intimate knowledge of the workings of the MCX, and I've talked to a lot of people that were in the design rooms at the beginning, and so I have a lot of respect for the design overall. That doesn't mean no gun is infallible, no gun is perfect, but the MCX really, and when I say MCX, I'm specifically talking about the Virtus. We'll go into the other generations, but the MCX Virtus is really executed well for a non-AR, for something that's new outside of that AR-15 world. The first generation I have very little experience on. I bought one, came into my shop, and then I ended up selling it, never shot it or anything like that. I wasn't too impressed with the first generation. The fit and finish, it seemed kind of chintzy, for lack of a better term. The fit and finish wasn't great. It had kind of a purple anodizing to it, which you'll see sometimes with the hard coat anodizing. Sometimes it'll have a purple hue to it. But, you know, as far as appearance goes, I'm not really a big fan of that. And then the barrel was very light. The bolt, there was a recall on the bolt carrier group that I had to get sent in and get replaced. So there was, you know, some things along those lines. The controls kind of grinded. It seemed like it was kind of like we had talked about before, just forced out there quickly, and like, hey, let's just get that gun out for people to buy. And that seemed to be the result of that. Well, then comes in the Virtus, and it seems like they took a lot of the complaints of the original design, and they really improved it with the Virtus. The fit and finish is better. The gas system, they were going to early on they were trying to do like a self-regulating gas system, or didn't have to be. I don't exactly know what they were trying to do. I just know it was different than what they have now, which is a two-position gas system, suppressed, unsuppressed. They might say adversed and not adversed or whatever, but it's effectively suppressed and unsuppressed gas system. They improved the rail lockup to the receiver. There's some changes with the upper receiver. I think the lower was effectively the same. They went from a crappy mil-spec, not even as good as a mil-spec trigger, to a factory two-stage trigger, which is fairly good. And let me just look at it to see if there's any other changes. I think that was mostly it. But you know, the early one wasn't great. The Virtus really caught my eye, and I ordered it as a law enforcement. It was like the law enforcement only version. So they came in Cerakoted, gray, and tan, which I wasn't really. I like Cerakote, but I prefer anodized, and I didn't really want. I wanted a black gun, but the civilian, they weren't releasing them to the civilian market. So they had, at the time I was active law enforcement, so I can't remember. I think it was Assange County Guns or something along those lines. That they had the 11.5-inch 5.56 MCX Virtus in the black anodized, and it was like their LE only version or whatever. So I bought that. It was a registered SBR, and then I bought the other parts to make it the 300 blackout. So I bought the it has the 6 3/4-inch barrel, 300 blackout, 1.5 twist. It has the Sig's earlier suppressors. This is the SRD 762 Ti QD. I think I got that right, but effectively it's just a conventional baffle stacked welded suppressor, titanium. You can see it, just the welds here. It's just the baffle stacked and welded on the outside, and it is the QD version, so it kind of has that the torpedo look. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's kind of cool looking. So nothing revolutionary about the suppressor, but it works extremely well. It's very quiet. With subsonics specifically, gas is a non-issue. I'm left-handed, so I'm very any gas there would be is going in my face, and this is very pleasant to shoot. Never have an issue with subsonics. Supersonics, it's a little more spicy, but it's not bad. But I know these suppressors have been discontinued, I believe. I say I know that, but I believe they've been discontinued, and now they've gone to their SLH or SLX. Anyway, it's a 3D printed flow-through suppressor, which seems to be what everybody's kind of going to. So that's what they're producing now. That's what I had on the work gun that I was issued. It was the SLH 762 QD, I believe is what it was. And it was a very effective suppressor. It worked very well. It was quiet. This is definitely quieter, but it wasn't, both of them are well behind hearing safe. I mean, they're pleasant to shoot without ear pro. It's like, it's barely a pellet gun sound. So it's kind of like Hollywood quiet. I know that's thrown around a lot, but this is the closest thing to Hollywood quiet that I think you can get in a non-22. So I'm just gonna shoot it for you real quick. Try to get it close to the microphone. So it's extremely quiet. I say I never get malfunctions. This is actually kind of a mag issue. This is a Lancer. I don't know if you can see that. Yep, it's not going to focus. See how the round's nosediving right into there, and it kind of, so these are getting caught up on this part right there, and it actually punched a hole through the plastic. Let me see if I can get this in there. So this is not Lancer's 300 blackout specific. This is their 5.56. I've ran their 300 blackout specific ones, and I haven't had any issues with this. This one I've just kind of started having an issue with since I started making this video, and it really is because that plastic, the round dove into the front of the magazine and then kind of messed up a piece of the polymer there, and so now it's catching on that. So I got to try to clean that up, but that wasn't an issue with the gun, but it's just funny because I've never had any issues. But realistically, non-mag related, I can't think of a single malfunction that I've had with either this MCX or the one that I was issued. And the one I was issued, I had a lot more rounds on. I mean, I had several thousand rounds on that, and it was also select fire, so a lot of that was full auto, just training and full auto. And the cool thing about subsonics, this setup, full auto with subsonics, it's like shooting a submachine gun, and that's kind of the role that it filled. That was the reason we went to the MCX, was it bridged the gap between carbine and submachine gun. So in a perfect world, if you're running these in that capacity on a team or in the military, the best way to run that, in my opinion, is to have a 2-round system. So you have subs, you have supers. Your zero ideally would be for supers, and then you're only really using the subsonic in close range, so like entries, where your zero is not going to be a crazy deviation. I know Sig and probably some other companies are making optics now that have multiple reticles with different zeros. So you can zero one reticle for subs and one reticle for supers. I believe EOTech has a 2-dot reticle where one is for subs and one for supers. So there's options there, and I think in a perfect world you would have a 2-round system. So every guy on the team is issued supers and subs, and depending on your position in an operation, whether you're perimeter or you're chasing a felon, whatever, where you could have a little bit more distance, you might have to take a shot, or you're doing entry where in an apartment complex where you don't want, you're sharing walls with other people, and ideally you'd want to get people out of apartments that aren't the bad guy, but that's not always the case. So it's nice to have something that you're not really worried about going through wall after wall. Now, full metal jacket, subsonic, you're still going to have that over penetration, so you'd want a specific, like some kind of hollow point expanding round if you were going to run subs in that capacity. So that being said, I've become a big fan of the MCX, and I'll put myself in the category. I've become a fanboy for the MCX, because it's a great system. The execution of it was damn near perfect, and it seems like they've kind of messed that up with the Spear LT, which is the newest generation of the 3 generations. It seems like the Virtus was almost perfect. The changes that I'd want in the Virtus, I see in the Spear LT, and I don't have any experience with the Spear LT besides what I've read. I've maybe shot it, maybe handled it a couple times, but never owned one, so I don't really, I don't have a lot of authority to speak on this. I don't have a lot of experience. But from the issues I've seen, I don't know what changed in the design to cause the barrel flex and these other issues, because really, from what it appears, is it was just 3 major updates, which would have been weight, so it's less. They lowered the weight overall, I believe. The handguard is a better system to where it's a better design to where it tapers, and I'm not talking about the suppressor handguard, but the non-suppressor handguard. It tapers. It's a little bit less blocky. That was one thing I don't like about the standard rail, not the one that goes over the suppressor, but the standard rail. It's kind of squared off, it's kind of ugly, and I think that I've never ran a laser on this or on my work gun, so I don't know, like an IR laser, aiming laser, so I don't know. I can't speak to holding zero issues, but from what I understand, the Spear LT added screws, because this just comes off, you take one pin out and you can push that rail off. So they added screws that go into the receiver to make it more rigid for lasers. Now, so that seemed like a good design. And then one thing I'd love to see is ambidextrous bolt release, which this does not have. It's ambidextrous everywhere else, but it doesn't have the ambidextrous bolt release. So it's really those 3 changes, the rail, the bolt release, and the weight. Which were all things that I would want to see in the next generation. Unfortunately, those rails are not backwards compatible, so I can't put that on this. I would love to get, for my 11.5-inch barrel, I'd love to get a new rail. I'll probably end up getting the Midwest. They're pretty nice rails, and they have a better profile to them. They're a little more sleek. But so I don't know what happened, with the barrel flex, or other issues I'm hearing with the Spear LT. Regardless of that, I know the Virtus, and I know the Virtus works well, and I've been very happy with it. As far as configurations, for my work gun, I ran it same from here back. It was the same optic setup, everything there. I did run it early on with the suppressor and the suppressor rail. All of ours were the 6 3/4 inch barrel, so that's the same. But the only thing I changed was we ended up getting the short Midwest rails, so they only came to here, and then you could run it unsuppressed or suppressed. So if I was in a situation where, I want to have my my MCX on me, but I need to be, in a UC position, like undercover, and I want to be, not spotlighting that I have a gun on me, I could, this big, I could throw it in a JanSport and it would fit folded. So sometimes I'd run it like that. For entries, a lot of times I ran it unsuppressed because of how short it was, so it was really easy getting into these tight crack houses and apartments and stuff. Within minutes, I went from the configuration you saw earlier to this. So this is actually a Midwest rail. They make this rail now for the Spear LT. They didn't make a short rail for the 6 3/4 inch barrel for the Virtus. So kind of a cool little PDW package. It's kind of like a Rattler heavy, there's it's just a little bit longer than a Rattler, but this stock, not a huge fan, but it looks cool, but it's not super comfortable. But anyway, so the only thing I'll say is that with this model, the Virtus, it will not function reliably unsuppressed with subsonics. So in this configuration with subsonics, it will usually cycle it, but it won't cycle it with, or won't lock back on last round. So we're going to test it real quick and we'll see if it lock backs. But with the new version, not necessarily the Spear LT, but just with the newer generations that are made for their new suppressors, that gas system will work reliably unsuppressed with subsonics. That was my work gun. I ran it with the, not this stock, but almost this exact configuration was how I ran it most of the time. And I would run it unsuppressed with subs. Tested it pretty heavily before select fire and all the, I ran it all the time, and it worked just fine. Because of their new suppressors are flow through suppressors, they opened up the gas system a little bit more than this. This restricts it more because it's for conventional suppressor. So you can actually just change out the gas regulator to the newer version, and it will run subsonics unsuppressed reliably. So, all right, we'll shoot 2 rounds. We'll see if it locks back. And it didn't lock back. So, as you can see, it cycled them, but it did not lock back. So, shoot a couple more rounds. And I'm not going to go through that whole mag, but just to kind of see. And yep, it picked up, it ejected, and it picked up the next round. So it cycles, but I wouldn't trust my life with it, just because it's slightly under gas, and I have seen malfunctions in this configuration with subsonics unsuppressed. So, all right, so we're going to shoot a group at 5 rounds at 100 yards. It's just the Sig's open tip match round, 220 grain subsonic. We've got a target down there. I'm going to aim center dot, so it's going to be a little bit lower at 100. It's a 50-yard zero, so it's going to be a little bit lower than that, but I just want to show the deviation at 100. So we'll shoot 5 rounds. See what we can get here. All right, let's go check it out. All right, that is the group. Not a great group. Could be partly me, could be other factors. Just have the 4 power with the red dot on there. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so red dots are starting to starburst on me. I don't know if I have an astigmatism, so that could be an issue. I've seen a little bit better than that. I'm usually seeing between like 1.5 to 2.5 MOA. This looks like it's going to be 3.5 plus with that fire. But anyway, we'll put it in the Ballistic app and Ballistic X app, and we will see. All right, we'll just shoot a bill drill real quick and see what we get on the beat. So 135, 135. All right, now we'll do a 1R2 for time. Just go over it again. Everything except for the bolt release on the Virtus is ambidextrous. So selector, mag release, charging handle. So besides being completely ambidextrous, which most of my ARs, all my ARs have those parts added, but this comes standard with ambidextrous controls. So reloads, very streamlined, very similar to an AR. Everything feels the same, but it's ambidextrous from the factory. So we'll do 1R2 on the beat. So 224, 224. All right, so that's the video. That's the MCX Virtus. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys are liking the content that I'm making, please subscribe, like, all that good stuff, comment. If you have any questions about this setup or other setups that I've showed, other videos I've had, please feel free to comment or message. If you have any ideas on things that you'd like me to cover, also comment or send me a message. I'm trying to get more ideas of content to put out as I'm getting started and trying to build the channel. So the goal is to do 2 to 4 videos a month, and I'm gonna need ideas. So if you guys have anything, please get with me on that. And if you are liking the content, please tell other people and get my name out there. I'd like to do this more. I've always had a passion for firearms. I've always been just obsessed with them, frankly. So I would love to just make videos about guns and get information, whatever I can, out to you guys. So thanks for joining. Until next time, stay safe. I'm not sure if this will pick up the sound, but check out this when I shoot the pond. Sounds like an explosion when it hits.